Well, the SEC is back after Elon Musk and Tesla. Well, actually, they kind of haven't stopped being after Elon Musk and Tesla for a while now, but Reuters, as you've probably already heard, is reporting that there are the potential wire fraud allegations against Tesla for misleading statements, puffery, or misleading, basically, salesmanship to investors of Tesla stock for the performance of full self-driving. Now, before we get into what all of that actually means for Tesla, I think it's worth clearing up two things up front. Number one, I think it's always been clear that full self-driving is a beta software, and it's quite frankly the best software that exists on the road today. Is it 100% autonomous? No, of course not, but I don't think that it's ever sold as that. Now, that might not necessarily be the SEC's problem here because, quite frankly, I think that would be a hard problem to win. I think the bigger argument that the SEC has is with Elon Musk's expectations or forecasts around when certain things would be available, such as when we would hit certain forecast targets for the full availability of FSD, which, as we know, keeps getting kicked down the road, how many Cybertrucks and when we might see them, how many semi-trucks and when we might see the Roadster. These sorts of patterns of promises that, while they're not necessarily no longer happening, they're certainly taking a whole lot longer to achieve. And it'll be something where the SEC might try to use promises that Elon makes in conjunction with promises around, hey, a $25,000 vehicle. Hey, look at our Dojo supercomputer system. Hey, look at our 4680 cells and how these will be the future. And soon every car will be using Dojo and 4680s, and soon we'll have the $25,000 car. And the SEC might try to allege, hey, well, now you're saying 4680s are a hedge. Well, that's not what you told folks on Battery Day, that you're really only making these now for the Cybertruck. It was supposed to be for everything, but that's not happening now because obviously Chinese batteries are quite frankly cheaper. Lithium prices have collapsed. And some of the success of the 4680 technology just hasn't really been up to snuff. Same thing with Dojo. Dojo was supposed to be the future. Now it's H100s. Now, I'm not pooping on those programs, but let's be real. Investors were sold this, and we're probably, here making our way up to there, if anything, kind of like bleeding out a little bit on some of these. Now, what I want to be clear about is I'm not a Tesla bear. This whole video isn't to say, we should listen to Reuters and be worried about Reuters, or we need to be concerned about what's going to end up happening here with the SEC. I'm simply trying to understand, and I thought about this morning, what could the SEC potentially string together? We know they've been investigating Tesla's FSD since 2020. We know that they've been subpoenaing folks, quite frankly, at least since October of 2023. I mean, here's a piece on that. U.S. Justice Department has sought documents and issued subpoenas to Tesla in conjunction, obviously, with the Securities and Exchange Commission. And then when the SEC finds something, they can refer it to the DOJ, who can actually file a criminal complaint. So I got to thinking about this a little bit. What is this actually, why is this happening? And then what does this mean as a Tesla shareholder? Okay, so first things first, why is this happening? I really hate to say it, but I think a lot of this can be spawned by Elon's attitude towards the regulators. Now, we all know every person isn't perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. And regulators realize that. Like, hey, you screw up as, a publicly listed company or whatever, you might have to pay a fine and issue corrective action and come up with a plan so that you don't screw up again in the future. Just to go extreme with this, right? Look at basically the audit sham mill, BF Borgers. They were just shut down by the SEC. That was the company the Trump SPAC hired, but they didn't actually do any work for the Trump SPAC yet. But this audit mill, at least the allegation goes, basically just took old audits and changed dates and passed them off as new ones. They're doing 3 to 4 audits per employed person, or 3 to 4x the number of audits per employed person that other audit firms were doing, leading to a lot of suspicions that they weren't actually auditing, that they were kind of just falsifying documents and, checking off boxes that weren't supposed to be checked. That company got fined $10 million and the CEO got fined $2 million. Now, obviously, those are big numbers, but for a corporation, it's like, okay, that's probably, and again, we have to say probably and allegedly, a blatant fraud, and that was their fine. Now, they're not the size and magnitude of Tesla, but those are the sorts of frauds that the SEC is trying to shut down. If you had a goal and you screwed up on your goal and you made it really clear, like, hey, look, here's what the goal is with FSD. Here's where we are now. Here's what has to happen to get to this goal. And you fall short. Maybe that's not that big of a deal. Maybe that's the entrepreneurial spirit. And the SEC, I don't think, would really go after Tesla for that. I think what's more is that it almost sometimes feels like Elon Musk is purposefully trying to spite the regulators, and then the regulators are then sort of, dare I say, looking for, all right, well, we could play that game too. And the best comparison I can give you is, or example I should say I could give you, is when Elon Musk said, hey, look, I'll meet you, SEC, and we'll do our deposition together. I'll come to your office and I'll do a meeting. This was late last year. 2 days before, he cancels going to visit the SEC. Weeks later, goes completely dark on the SEC. SEC suggests, hey, can you come visit us at any of these offices around the country? Can we get this done? We'll accommodate you anywhere. Let's get this done. It basically got to the point of a court having to compel Elon Musk to testify or to provide, whatever information or the interview that the SEC wanted. And I think it's that sort of blatant spiting of regulators that has regulators going, okay, well, if you're going to spite us, is it because maybe you're trying to hide something? And let's go investigate this a little bit. And then what do? They subpoena employees. Or how about all the employees that just got fired? It's not that hard for them to subpoena a bunch of employees who just got fired and put together some kind of basically, thoroughly exemplified complaint in conjunction with the Department of Justice, where they're basically able to go, here's what Elon Musk said to investors. 4680, that's the future. I mean, we should look it up. Battery Day Tesla. All right, so Battery Day Tesla was September 2020. And that was the annual meeting of stock shareholders, basically, and Battery Day. And they put together this gorgeous Battery Day presentation. This was it. And we got a little bit of enthusiasm and excitement about, future product lines and future features. I remember covering this. It was really, really exciting. This was so fun. Everybody was so excited about what Tesla was up to. And so this is where they gave this basically demonstration of how amazing they've come up with the technology to create this evolution in a product. But here they're pitching 50+% energy density. Now, some of that obviously will be because of volume, because it's obviously a larger battery. It's kind of like a AAA battery to a AA battery, is the way I like to look at it. But some of these promises, the SEC will probably go to and look at and say, okay, so here's a 4680 cell, 16+% range, 5x the energy, 14% cost per kilowatt reduction. Where is that now? And we're going to get to introducing this into every single vehicle that Tesla creates. And the goal is that by 2022, we're going to have 100 gigawatt hours and 3 terawatt hours of battery production by 2030. Well, mind you, we're in 2024, and we're nowhere near maybe even 10% of 4680 capacity right now, because the only thing we're making these for are Cybertrucks. So if the only thing we're making these for are Cybertrucks, let's see, kilowatt hours, Cybertruck. Let's see, the current is 123 kilowatt hours, right? Kilowatt hours, so we're gonna create, let's go, we'll call this 123K dubs. Let's say 10,000 have been created. then we really have 1.2 million kilowatts. 1.2 million kilowatts. Okay, well, what is 100 gigawatts? Here you go. 100 gigawatt hours is actually, oh boy, what do we have here? That looks like 100 million kilowatt hours. So we're supposed to be at 100 million kilowatt hours for the new batteries by 2022, so 2 years ago. And Cybertruck is maybe 1/100th of that. So unfortunately, there are going to be a lot of opportunities for, and this is just one example, right? Dojo being a hedge, 4680s being the non-preferred battery now, the $25,000 car, the Roadster they've taken deposits for, but I don't think is anywhere near on a sort of promises that the SEC is going to look at in writing and go, is this just a pattern of Elon Musk creating expectations that end up falling through? Bloomberg Intel actually did a pretty good piece breaking down why the 4680 just isn't as efficient as expected. And so while this was really cool hope and theoretical science, it just didn't end up working out the way Tesla expected. The problem with this is investors are sold these visions and then they don't necessarily come true. So what does that mean as an investor? Is Tesla a bad investment? Well, that's separate. See, I still think that Tesla has a phenomenal upside in not just FSD licensing, but primarily just selling cars at a high margin. That's still the biggest way that I underwrite Teslas. And I personally think you can almost collapse the value of FSD into the value of the car. And for probably at least the next 5 to 10 years, you've really got a vehicle that you can't compete against. See, in the longer term, I don't think people will actually buy a car because it has full self-driving in it. I think every car will have full self-driving in it. So we'll kind of go back to buying a car because it's a car, and it'll just come with a full self-driving stack inside of it. So manufacturing Teslas and making Teslas ubiquitous is always going to be what's very, very important to Tesla. Other companies will solve full self-driving as well. So as a long-term investor for Tesla, although I do fundamentally trade it to take advantage of tax scenarios, which I think everybody should, but that's on them. It's not personalized advice, obviously. It's broad suggestion. I think that this investigation in Tesla is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's certainly not a good thing. Like, we know it's not good. And I wouldn't say it's something that says, run for the hills or whatever to get out of Tesla, because the SEC and the DOJ may end up putting together some form of fraud complaint against Tesla. I can already see the headline. Tesla charged with massive fraud over 7 years or whatever due to Elon's promises. And then what they do is they put together a list of, here are all the claims, here are the employees on the inside on record going, yeah, that's bullshit, yeah, that's bullshit, yeah, that's bullshit, that's bullshit. And then here are the new promises from Elon. What do we expect to say? That pattern is what they'll establish. And that's going to look really bad. Now, do I really think that whatever punishment could potentially come out of a criminal complaint, which could end up just being like paying back money to shareholders or some form of fines or a combination of that, do I really think that is what you want to plan for? No, of course not, because it'll probably damage the company and the stock a lot more. But do I think that happening is enough to say, oh, Tesla's a bad company, you should invest in Tesla? No, not at all. Absolutely not. But I do think that Elon's behavior against regulators has unfortunately attracted this negative attention. Generally, I'm of the mindset where I love to be able to be as cooperative as possible to say, hey, if let's say the SEC says, hey, Kevin, we have a problem with this, how can we fix it? And so there are always going to be cases where you're going to have to pay fines for things that just aren't perfect as they should be. But I think you enhance or worsen that when you purposefully try to spite the regulators, and then you kind of give them the ammunition to come after you. So I think a little bit this is, unfortunately, Elon soaking regulatory attention to him when he shouldn't be soaking. And I'm not talking about the Mormon soaking either. This is like maybe we should use the word magnet, magnetically attracting this sort of negative attention. I think trying to be a little bit more, how should I say, cooperative might go a long way. Anyway, who knows? This is just my thought, my speculation. A lot of folks were asking me about this, so here it is. Do I really think a wire fraud charge at the end of the day is going to be a big deal? Again, doesn't look good. It'll take years to actually litigate. But the point is, I think this is a very similar to a get Trump situation, unfortunately.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.
Even though I'm a licensed financial advisor, licensed real estate broker, and becoming a stockbroker, this video is not personalized advice for you. It is not tax, legal, or otherwise personalized advice tailored to you. This video provides generalized perspective, information, and commentary. Any third-party content I show shall not be deemed endorsed by me. This video is not and shall never be deemed reasonably sufficient information for the purposes of evaluating a security or investment decision. Any links or promoted products are either paid affiliations or products or services we may benefit from. I also personally operate an actively managed ETF. I may personally hold or otherwise hold long or short positions in various securities, potentially including those mentioned in this video. However, I have no relationship to any issuer other than Househack, nor am I presently acting as a market maker. Make sure if you're considering investing in Househack to always read the PPM at househack.com.